You ever see a man laugh while he ruins your life? Not just smile, not smirk, but laugh, like it's funny that your future just cracked open and spilled into the street. That laugh stays with you. I remember it every time I walk past a park bench, every time I touch a keyboard, every time someone says, "You look familiar." I was 26 when it happened. I had no criminal record. I just launched a freelance design business and was saving up to rent my own apartment. I had a degree. I had ambition. What I didn't have was protection. It was a Tuesday, late April, sky blue and arrogant. I was sitting on a park bench in downtown Richmond, sipping burnt coffee and tapping out lines of code on my laptop. I was designing a prototype for a non-profit, youth literacy app, free project, just to get my name out there. I was focused, zoned in, headphones on. That's probably why I didn't see the cop approach, not until the shadow fell over my screen. I looked up. He was already frowning. "What are you doing here?" he asked. I blinked. "Working? On what?" "A website." He glanced at my laptop. "You work here often?" "Sometimes. I like the fresh air." He tilted his head. "You like the fresh air? That's funny." He radioed something in. I took off my headphones. "Is there a problem?" He didn't answer. Instead, he motioned to another officer across the lawn. 2 minutes later, I was surrounded. Still didn't know what was happening. Then he said the words, "We got a report about a suspicious person with electronic equipment." Suspicious person with electronic equipment. I laughed. "You mean my laptop?" He didn't laugh, but when I asked if I was being detained, he did. That laugh. Low, dry, condescending. "Of course you are," he said. "You fit the description." They cuffed me in front of a group of kids feeding pigeons, took my laptop, my phone, searched my bag. Didn't find anything, obviously, but it didn't matter. They said I was uncooperative, said I resisted instructions. None of it was true, but the paperwork didn't care. The system didn't care. The mugshot didn't care. I spent 36 hours in a holding cell. No phone call, no charges, no apology. When they finally released me, the laughing cop handed me my bag and said, "Try a coffee shop next time." He was smiling. I didn't smile back. Things fell apart fast after that. My face ended up in a police blotter, just a name and photo under questioning. The nonprofit dropped the project. My landlord said the lease wouldn't be renewed. He didn't want any trouble. I applied for a bank loan. Denied. I applied for a co-working space. Denied. I applied for jobs. Ghosted. Over and over. The internet never forgets. Even if the charges vanish, the image doesn't. The phrase, "arrested in connection with," follows you like a shadow, especially when your skin is brown, especially when your bank account is empty, especially when you start to believe maybe you really are the problem. For a few weeks, I spiraled, stayed inside, stopped checking email, cut contact with people. My savings drained. I ended up couch surfing between two friends who didn't ask too many questions. I hated feeling like a burden. I hated feeling like I had no story left to tell. But the worst part was the silence. No one from the department ever called. No one ever said, "Our mistake." They just moved on. Like I never mattered. But I wasn't done yet.
Getting back up wasn't cinematic. There was no music, no sudden inspiration, just slow, ugly steps. I started freelancing again under a new name. No photos, no bios, just work. I built logos for tattoo shops, restaurant menus, church websites, took whatever paid. I used a burner email, a prepaid debit card, cash only. It was quiet work, invisible, but I needed invisible. Invisible was safe. A friend of a friend let me use a corner of his garage as an office. No windows, just concrete and wires. But it was mine. I bought a used router, a desk, a chair from the curb, and I worked. 12 hours a day, every day. I learned UX design, JavaScript, branding psychology. I studied everything, watched TED Talks at midnight, read startup books in PDF because I couldn't afford print. I still had the arrest on my mind. Every time I typed my real name into Google, it came back. Page 4. But still there, still grinning. So I stopped being Darius the designer. I became Northside Studios. No face, no story, just clean work. Clients didn't ask questions. They paid. I delivered. Slowly, the jobs got bigger. Then came my first retainer client, a black-owned clothing brand out of Atlanta, down $200 a month. Then a vegan food truck chain. Then a nonprofit that helped incarcerated men get GEDs. I didn't tell them why I cared about their mission so much, but I poured myself into their work. At 28, I registered Northside as a real LLC, got a business license, a Stripe account, opened a new bank account under my company name. It felt legitimate, like I existed again, like I could breathe. I hired my first contractor, a young woman from Chicago named Bree. She was brilliant. I gave her 20% more than she asked. I told her, "We don't exploit talent here." She said, "You're weird. I like it." We built a team, 4 designers, 2 writers, a project manager named RJ who could organize chaos like a magician. Within a year, we had 15 clients on monthly retainers, 2 press mentions. I still didn't show my face, didn't speak at events, but I was making it. One night, RJ said, "Why don't you apply for the Richmond Pitch Fund?" "What's that?" He grinned. "City gives 10 local businesses $25K each. No strings, you just pitch." I hesitated. He pressed. "Dude, we could scale." I applied. Anonymous brand, clean deck, no photo, just stats, case studies, growth charts. 2 weeks later, I was accepted. Finalists would pitch live, on stage, with a panel. My stomach dropped. I didn't want to show my face. But Bree said something that stuck. "You hiding helps no one who's still invisible." So I got a haircut, bought a blazer, practiced in front of the mirror for a week, wrote and rewrote my story. The night of the pitch, I walked into a room with 200 people and 5 judges, and on the far right, him, the laughing cop, now retired, now a panelist. I froze when I saw him. He hadn't changed much. Same build, same eyes, different haircut. Name tag said, T. Marsh, Community Advisor. He was sipping coffee and looking at his phone, completely unaware that the man walking onto the stage was the same kid he'd arrested 2 years earlier, the same one he'd laughed at, tossed into the back of a cruiser, labeled and left. I stepped up, took the mic, looked out at the crowd, looked at him, and smiled. I told my story, not the part about him, not yet. I told them about sitting on a park bench with a laptop, trying to build something. About losing everything because of a moment I didn't cause, a moment I didn't deserve. I told them about Northside Studios, about the team, the growth, the belief that design could tell better stories than systems ever could. The crowd clapped, and then I paused. "I want to say one more thing." I turned toward the judges. "There's a man in this room who changed my life. He didn't mean to, but he did. 2 years ago, he cuffed me in front of kids. He laughed. I wasn't dangerous. I was coding. That moment broke something in me, but it also planted something." The room was silent. I don't say this to shame him. I say this to show you. Even broken soil can grow something. Even a bad day can bloom. This business was built from that pain, and it's why I hire who I hire, people who were written off, people who were overlooked. Then I looked him right in the eye. And I'm still here. I didn't win the 25K. I didn't need to. The next morning, my inbox exploded. Clients, press, mentions. A local investor offered to match the grant. We hired 3 new people in 2 months. I started showing up in interviews, face and all. My name, Darius Hall, became real again. Then, 3 months later, he emailed me. Subject line: I don't expect a reply. It was short. He said he remembered the arrest, said he'd seen the news, said he was sorry. I was trained to assume the worst. I should have seen better. He didn't ask for forgiveness, just left a line at the end. If you're ever hiring, I'd be honored to prove I've changed. I sat with that email for 2 days, then I forwarded it to RJ with one sentence. Let's bring him in. He showed up nervous, suit too big, resume too short. But I didn't care about that. I cared that he was willing to sit across from me. I asked him the same question I ask every applicant. What do you believe in? He said, second chances. I hired him, not to prove a point, to keep my word. We don't punish people here, we build them. Now he works in outreach, helps us run digital literacy workshops in communities where trust is hard to come by. He doesn't hide his story, neither do I. People ask if it's awkward, if I ever think about what he did. Of course I do, but I also think about what I did. I built something bigger than my anger. And that's power. You ever see a man laugh while he ruins your life? I did. And 2 years later, I gave him a job.